Hell, it's almost noon, and I'm still fucking around with my Roku stick, but that's not exactly the point. But that's not exactly the point of the video I'm doing. But there's so much free shit on this fucking thing. I've just downloaded over 100 different movie apps for different things. But it's still pretty interesting. I just got off the phone with my brother and I told him, I said, well, you would love this fucking thing if you ever had one. I said, because he likes the same thing I do, like free movies, stuff like that. So we go through trying to find all free movies that we don't have to pay for. So that's pretty cool. So I told him he would fucking love this thing. But to get to the main point of the video that I'm doing, we know 45's train is running off the tracks. We kind of figured that much anyway. The fever, the fever may be starting to break. 45 has held his party in line with bullying tactics and the white hot love of his inbred base, but now badly trailing in the polls and marred by increasingly erratic self-sabotaging behavior. There are signs that some repugs are beginning to distance themselves from 45 in a desperate attempt to avoid political, what they call doom. The unlikely canary in the coal mine came in the form of Arizona Senator, another dumb cunt, Martha McSally. She's typically a 45 sycophant nutlooker who avoided answering several direct questions on whether she was proud of her support for the squatter during her debate against Democratic challenger Mark Kelly. Instead, she robotically repeated that she was proud to be fighting for Arizona. Not good enough. It wasn't subtle, but it was strategic. That's because hugging 45 too tight is a liability in a purple state general election. Independents make up 32% of the registered voters in Arizona, and in the latest CNN poll, 45 has just had a 37% approval rating among independents nationally. In Arizona, 45 has the added burden of repeatedly insulting the state's favorite son, John McCain, whose wife Cindy has endorsed Joe Biden. 45's persistent disrespect of McCain provoked McSally to slap the squatter more directly. It pisses me off when he does this. It's not that McSally had a change of heart or mind, it's that she's losing by 11 points, according to a recent New York Times Siena poll, to Kelly, an astronaut and husband. She's losing to this guy Kelly, who's an astronaut and a husband of former Arizona Congressman and gun reform advocate Gabby Giffords. It's not just an Arizona problem in Texas. Polls show a surprisingly tight race between 45 and Biden, perhaps not coincidentally. Texas Repug Senator John Cornyn, who's running for a fourth term against combat veteran M.G. Hager, notably dared to criticize 45 last week, saying that the squatter let his guard down and stirred confusion with his chaotic response to the pandemic. We think that the biggest mistake people make in public life is not telling the truth, he said, particularly in something with as much public interest as here, because you know the real story is going to come out eventually. In Iowa, a state that voted for 45 by a margin of almost 10 points in 2016, Repug Senator Joni Ernst is down 5 points to her Democratic challenger Teresa Greenfield. In Colorado, Repug Senator Cory Gardner has been trailing the former Governor John Hickenlooper for the duration of the race. In Maine, self-styled moderate Repug Senator Susan Collins, who refused to even vote for witnesses during the 45 impeachment trial, finds herself staring at the end of a quarter-century career. Legendary Repug campaign strategist Ed Rollins, who's the chair of the pro 45 Make America Hate Again, told me, I'm afraid the race is over. Rollins said that he would definitely recommend that candidates make the case for their own re-election. And when asked about 45, they should say, I support him when it's in the interest of my state, North Carolina, Arizona, and oppose him when it's not in the interest of the state in itself. Basically, the politician's job is to support the people of their state. The respected Cook political report rated Repug held Senate seats at toss-ups in typically red states like South Carolina, Georgia, Montana, which 45 won by a cumulative average of 13 points 4 years ago. What happened after the first debate is every Senate race saw a 3 to 4 point drop for Repug candidates across the board, said Rollins. So campaigns are panicking, and it's the first time in a long time while they are being outraised. The potential is is there to lose not only the squad and seat but the Senate as well, and to see the kind of wipeout we haven't had an experience since the Watergate scandal of 1974. The ideal that the incumbent squatter that the incumbent repug Senator Lindsey Graham would be in a neck-and-neck race in South Carolina against Jamie Harrison would have seemed absurd in any other circle. But that's where we are. Lindsey Graham's embrace of 45 after 45's attacks on his good friend John McCain have not reflected well on his character. The smell of desperation has only increased over the past week after 45's disastrous performance at the first debate that widened the already cavernous gender gap and pushed Biden to a 21-point edge among senior citizens in the latest CNN poll. In the wake of the White House COVID outbreak and 45 subsequent worried rage tweets single-handedly scuttling the COVID relief bills, it calls to arrest political opponents and even attacking loyal to a fault cabinet members, attorney like General Fat Fuck Barr and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who's another fat ass, made some wonder if 45 would take everyone down with them. There's reason to worry. The Repug Party has not prospered under 45 nearly as much as 45 has prospered in fame and influence from his takeover of the Repug Party. He's been so focused on projecting strength to the base that it's obscured to the fact that he's really weak with the general electorate. In the 2018 midterms, Repugs got crushed not just by a blue wave, but a blue tsunami, as the CNN colleague Harry Enton called it, resulting in Democrats gaining 40 House seats, which was their largest pick since the Watergate scandal of 1974. And that's despite a massive degree of gerrymandering designed to stop Democrats from getting their fair share of congressional seats and commensurate to the popular vote. Democratic presidents like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama both faced midterm election repudiations, but they both easily won re-election. That does not seem to be the scenario 45 is heading into this fall. Despite this destructive dynamic, Repugs in Congress have been caught in a catch-22. While 45 is hugely popular with his inbred base, he has been historically an unpopular fat ass overall. The only squatter in the history of the Gallup poll to never top a 50% approval rating at all. Despite low unemployment before the coronavirus crisis, but because of polarization, power in the party has been driven to the margins, with most members of Congress more afraid of losing a partisan primary than a general election. As a result, they live in fear of a squatterable tweet, offending a conservative donor, or being attacked by a right-wing website. All this breeds anemic apparatchiks, whether it is 45's refusal to commit to a peaceful transfer of power or refusal to criticize the Russian President Vladimir Putin, a reluctance to clearly condemn white supremacists or allegations that he insulted the sacrifice of U.S. troops. 45 has denied the claims. There has seemed to be no red line that fat-ass 45 could cross that would cause repugs or elected officials to speak out. This even as more than 200 former GOP elected national security and George W. Bush's administration alumni leaders have crossed party lines to endorse Biden, including former members of the 45 administration itself. But what happens when politicians and self-interest starts to override the 45's blustering excesses, and what's stopping more from stepping off the 45 train before it runs off the tracks? Many saw 45 pull off an impossible win last time around, despite all the polls, and some believe that it's destined to happen again. Data be damned. Others are afraid that speaking out will destroy any hope of higher office in some future repug parties, where the 45 nutlickers will retain influence. Still others just don't want to deal with the grief from hyper-partisan trolls on social media, or slave their bruised conscience with negative partisanship, telling themselves that Bernie Sanders, not Joe Biden, is the de facto nominee of the Democratic Party. And finally, for others, it's just too late to have a conversion experience incredibly campaign as an independent-minded repug. They worry that they could lose the base while failing to gain the center. A week is a long time in politics, especially when 45 is throwing bombs. Anything can happen. It is 2020 after all. But as he threatens democratic norms and insists on his alternative reality, more repugs may, at least in cold moments of private panic, they might awaken from the hyperpartisan stupor to realize that loyalty is always a one-way street with 45. But if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Rambin Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.